Well, we've been getting colorful sunsets thanks to the fires out west. But I thought I'd come out here and talk about something, and I'm trying out my camera, the mount that I bought at a rummage sale that fits on the window, and I think that's going to work. But I was going to talk about that I kind of want to talk about yesterday, but I guess it's more relevant now than it was then. To do with the Capitol Police. You know, after this whole riot thing, I was surprised when, a short time later, one of them committed suicide. And then another one. And now just the other day, a couple more. And today, the administration awards gold medals for their heroism during these riots. Okay, here's the thing that really bothers me about this. Those people were put in an untenable position. The FBI knew something was going to go down. They had a big hand in instigating this whole thing. Everybody involved knew something was going to go down, except for the police officers. Well, they had a kind of a clue. The Capitol Police guy had a clue, but they weren't really privy to the information. The top, I think, 3 people in the Capitol Police got fired over this thing because they were, they knew what was going on, the top 3 people. This was kind of a set-up deal. Like I say, they sent home a bunch of the police officers before this went down. They were offered the National Guard. They didn't want them. These people that ended up trying to defend the Capitol were bait. That's all it was, really. They were put in that position, given no resources. They had a couple of barricades. This was supposed to stop this mad crowd. But it was, they needed, the administration needed something to happen. So they set it up to happen. And these poor guys there took the beating for this. And now, to go and, I'm sure this was very upsetting to these people. Here, the outfit you're working to protect puts you in a position where you're going to be martyred, so to speak. Because even, they ask if they could have, the non-lethal munitions. Nope, can't have that. Even the crowd control equipment, the riot shields and stuff, was locked up. They didn't have the key. They couldn't get at it. So they were really in a helpless position. But that's what they wanted. The administration wanted this to go down this way. The only thing where they really screwed up, because really they did, the last thing they needed was somebody actually firing on the crowd, and that's where whoever shot that woman, he screwed up badly, because they wanted, all the nastiness should be on the other side. They should be innocent victims in this thing. That's the public perception, should be that. And then when the only one who gets killed is on the wrong side, if they'd had, it would have been great if they'd had more police officers killed. They'd have been happy about it. More gold medals. But that would have gave them an excuse to go wild on this, So they didn't want that to happen. but they wanted a riot to happen. They just didn't want it to get too out of hand, you know. It got a little too personal when they were breaking into the office and stuff. That bothered them a lot. But it really, you know, like these people claimed they were horribly traumatized. Well, they snapped out of it pretty well. The people who were traumatized were the police officers, the Capitol Police, because they were put in this horrible position, you know, that there was nothing they could do. And then they were just hung out to dry. I know, like I say, the top 3 people controlling the Capitol Police, they were fired. A bunch of officers were fired. But now they said this Capitol Police force has been in great disarray for a long time. In fact, this crisis response unit, when, you know, if there's a citizen uprising, that's a shit job in the Capitol Police. That's like a demotion if you get stuck into there. If you screw up or cause somebody to get a little aggravated with you, you get stuck on that because it's a really shitty job. So all these poor devils that were stuck in this shitty job, it just got real shitty. And I think what happened, that there was all this rash of suicides, I think was when they finally come to realize that, you know, what had happened to them, the position that they had been put in. But at the same time, it makes me very uneasy whenever you see a rash of suicides like that. It gets to be kind of Clinton-esque. You know, you start thinking, what did they know? Or what was somebody afraid they were going to talk about? You know, they paraded some of them on television, you know, with the tears and the whole thing. But I wonder about the ones that didn't go on television, the ones that got fired and demoted, and, you know, there was a great shuffling after this happened. But I wonder, you know, there's more to the story, you know. And in fact, you know, they were really pushing that first one that died of a stroke or 2 strokes the day after the riots. They tried everything they could to make that sound like that was caused by the riots. And in fact, if you go online now and look, that's still what the claim is. You know, that's in the history books, it'll be what they show, that he died because of the riots. Because at the moment, they're writing history. But I really, like I say, when I see a rash of suicides and people dying, because I think there was 3 other ones in the Capitol Police that died of natural causes. You know, but a whole rash of people suddenly dying. You know, I mean, there was like car accidents and, you know, this kind of thing. We've seen that before. So I would like, if somebody would actually come clean on what went down there. You know, all these investigations that they're doing, they're meaningless. Nothing's going to be accomplished there. But a real investigation and get some honest facts out of some people would be good to have. Like, who shot that woman? You know, because the fact that they're really avoiding any mention of that and trying to cover that up, I think it's important to know. But it strikes me odd. I mean, that many people dying and that many suicides over, you know, I would think in an organization like that, like they were doing counseling for all of the senators and stuff. Oh my God, they were just traumatized. They all had to have counseling. and big teams of security now. But was there no counseling for these policemen? Did they not realize that they might be a little distraught about this? You know, and I'd swear, they weren't distraught about the riots as much as they were about the position that they had been put in. You know, because that's a hell of a thing to find out, that you're going to be, you know, you're going to take one for the team. You know, you get the crap beat out of you, and preferably killed, evidently. But that's a tough way to be used as, you know, I mean, it happens, that sort of thing happens, but that's not a good thing. I know one time, you know, they did a study on, you know, their big fear is like our military or National Guard would hesitate to fire on the civilian population. This concerns them because they're constantly afraid of a great uprising. This is a thing, and justifiably so, because if you're pulling shit like they're pulling, you have to be nervous about this, that something's going to catch up with you. Well, like I said, they did a study one time, and they were kind of distraught about this, that they couldn't count on the police and National Guard. And that's why a lot of policemen got fired, because when it got to that point, they just said, you know, walk on in. You know, I'm not going to lose my life over this nonsense. But in this study, they were searching around to find out who would be willing to fire on the civilian population, and the recommendation that they came up with was, I don't know, it was spookily enough, people from down in Central America, you know, where they've been squabbling, revolution, counter-revolution, there's no hesitation there, they shoot each other all the time. This is normal for them. And so now all of a sudden, we're bringing them in. And I'm not talking this stuff that goes on at the border. These families that come across, though, they keep finding out a lot of them families have never even met each other before. They're put together as a family unit, shuffled across the border, then split up again. These aren't family units, they're just random people mixed together, you know. Don't even know each other. But there are flights coming from down in Central America and from like the southern border of Mexico coming up into this country. That's where they got trouble at Laughlin Air Force Base, where they were landing there and taking off again on our military base, and they can't do that. Well, they got in trouble for doing it. They weren't supposed to talk about it, but it got out. But they keep shuffling plane loads of military-age men from way down south into the middle of this country. And I'd swear they're building an army of people who will be willing to fire on the regular citizens. I mean, they're waving this citizenship like a carrot. You know, you come in, do our bidding, you can be a citizen. So, sounds like a pretty wild conspiracy theory, but there's a lot of stuff pointing to it. And if there's one thing that we have learned in the last year, the only difference between wild conspiracy theory and fact is about 6 months. Just a matter of time. And then all these wild conspiracy theories turn out to be true. So I think we're kind of, the clock is running out on that. But I kind of get the feeling they are assembling an army of mercenaries, much like the British did in the Revolutionary War when they they brought over the German Hessians to fight. I think our government is actually doing that. I think they're, because they've been, like down in Central America, we've been equipping them people and training them people for many years. We've been on both sides of every battle that goes on down there. And I think they feel that they can manipulate them into fighting their battles here. Like I say, it's just a theory. But there's a lot of little things pointing to that. Well, on another note, I was in town today, made a quick trip in, and I noticed there was a lot of ammunition for sale. A shelf full of 9mm, which I haven't seen for a long time. I didn't buy any of it. I've got a 9mm, but I don't often shoot it, and I've got other guns I prefer to use. But I thought that was interesting, that all of a sudden there's a lot of ammunition available. So if you don't have, I guess, because it wasn't crazily priced either, like a box of 9mm was like $19. I guess you can live with that. But they had quite a selection of the stuff. And it's funny because a week ago I was in there, nothing. They had no 9mm. No pistol ammunition at all. No, they had a lot. So it might be your last opportunity to stock up. Well, I can go home. Getting dark. But I found it interesting. But to go and give, to use those Capitol Police like that, and then have the balls today to go and give gold medals for this and call them heroes. They were just another victim of the administration. I don't know how they get people to work for them. It really surprises me. It's a thankless job,